All right, guys, welcome back to the Heights podcast. Sitting here with Matt Hedrick, who we know and love. We also know and love this special guest of ours, Nick Pavgouzas, just named principal of Bishop Moore Catholic. Dr. Erica Wickstrom, our previous principal, has been named superintendent of the Diocese of Orlando, which is super cool. So such a blessing for our diocese, such a blessing for our school. And I think this is episode 8. Am I right, Coach Hedrick?
Yeah, I think it's
episode 8. Yeah, so we're rolling here. So we're so blessed to have Nick here with us. We thought it'd kind of be an interview, get to know his heart, his vision for Bishop Moore. So Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story. Orlando, UCF, born and raised here. So tell us a little bit about your story, how you got here.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. You guys, this is famous Bishop Moore.
Yeah.
Wait, can I interrupt real quick? I just need to interrupt because I have a college shirt on today.
Yeah.
And I've never worn a college shirt.
It's unbelievable.
Maybe ever at Bishop Moore in the history of a regular school day. But I put this on in honor of you.
Thank you.
Pretty
Yeah, for everyone in the audience, he's still wearing shorts, athletic shorts.
But they're golf? No, I changed them.
Yeah. And now that we heard from Matt, Nick can scoot up so you don't have to see Matt anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want you to see your collared shirt anymore.
So just, a little bit of a background on myself. Growing up, I born and raised in Sanford and went to All Souls. It's funny what people don't realize. All Souls is 70 years old as well. So we're celebrating 70 years kind of together. Bishop Moore and All Souls. Cool. It's a very historic school. My mother went there. Her siblings went there. And so my family, I come from pretty much an immigrant family who just came over and took a boat over, went through Ellis Island and made their journey to New York City and then settled in Sanford, which I still am trying to figure out how that happened. Because it's in Sanford in the 60s, no one was there.
Now it's crazy. Now it's oh my gosh, man. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's unbelievable. Yeah. And so, so born and raised, went through All Souls, went kindergarten through 8th grade there. My brother did as well. My mom and her siblings are alumni for the school. And just really active participants in the parish. So I didn't really have a childhood without All Souls, going to church, was an altar server, was the kid that was called out of science class every day to go serve a funeral. So the teachers were always, trying to figure out what was going on. But so it was kind of a part of my life to be an active participant in the church from my formational years. And so kind of after that, just out of close relationships through college, All Souls at the time was hiring a bunch of college guys to get all the maintenance work done. We broke all the risk management rules we had today.
No
they
waivers,
didn't have the department.
No liability.
Yeah, didn't have the department of the diocese back then. So, but what it did though at that time in my life was really connect me to the church in a way that I don't know that everyone had that experience. Because I get to know the pastor, know the director of operations, who became John Trout, who was Bishop's Master Ceremonies, and so it really connected me and had me sort of get to know people in a way that was a little bit more personal. And so then went off to UCF, graduated, got my master's in ed leadership, and for my first 8 years of my career, really just spent the time in Seminole County, and that was really tough at times, but it taught me a lot. I went back to where I went to high school. I went to Seminole, was a teacher there, was a coach. I coached volleyball and soccer. I was a volleyball player at the school when I went there, and then went on to administrative roles from there. I was a dean. I actually worked at the school district for a year in alternative education, which was, essentially students who were having issues with the law, trouble as minors. And then from there became assistant principal at Sanford Middle School. And then from there, I really started at that time in my life wondering what really am I called to do as an educator. Last year at Dean as a Seminole, the funny story, and I don't even know if Henry remembers it, Mr. Fortier, is I actually submitted my resume to be an AP at St. Margaret Mary.
Oh, funny.
When I was a dean at Seminole. And I was, just getting started, no Catholic school experience. And so went through an interview process. They were going to actually hire me to go over to, I think it was they were hiring a new administrative staff at St. John Vianney, and it just didn't work out. And he said, hey, if you ever in the future have any, thoughts to come back to our diocese, let me know. And then 3 years later, I was really was an AP at Sanford Middle. I was just still in the same place. This, I love education, but it's not connecting fully. And so just talked to my wife, talked to my family, and it just was I think it's time for me to try this. Funny at that point is I applied to the job, interviewed at St. Thomas Aquinas, one interview, and got, so it was the time God had in plan.
Yeah, he opened those doors, man. Oh.
So, and then my 4 years there were incredible. It was a challenging time because had a year of COVID and really tried to have a way to really engage that community that kind of had the principal before had to leave. Her husband got transferred, and she was there for her whole life. And so really wanted to get a place where that community was really, stable and feeling good about themselves. And then, COVID hit, so we're working through that, but really was an amazing 4 years. I learned so much. They were a really humble, welcoming community. Still have great relationships there. A lot of the students are here, which is great.
It's funny, Nick. Can I stop you there?
Yeah,
like
please.
some of these students who are graduating this year, seniors.
Yeah.
Were probably your last year there, right? So we're at St. Thomas.
No, they would have been like 7th graders when I got there.
Okay, but they were they were there towards it.
Yep.
So some of these seniors, I have a few in my class, and they rave about Mr. Pav, like, oh, Mr. Pav,
Yeah.
But some of them are like the hardest workers I've ever seen. Like, part of it is, St. Cloud from here is a little bit of a distance, and there's one girl who has a tough time even getting here. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Or she'd actually take the train coming up, and but her commitment to education, her parents' sacrifice, and it sounds like it's a common theme at St. Thomas Aquinas, this love for Catholic education and what we're willing to do for it. I'm sure you have the spectrum there, but man, it seems like every student I meet from there has this we're going to sacrifice to go to Bishop Moore.
Well, what's happening in Orlando overall is we're seeing a massive migration of immigrant families from Central and South America. And so when they're coming, they find their work, they find their home, and the next thing they're looking for is where's the church, where's the Catholic school? Because it's, such a part of their culture, the Venezuelan, Colombian culture, So St. Thomas was a reflection of that. We were about 90% Hispanic, but those families were just so steadfast, so loyal to the church, but also just valued their kids' Catholic education. And were just, just ultra supportive of me and my family, and so I appreciate that.
How beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so St. Thomas, 4 years, and then...
So really, what I think everyone, when they look at their career, they find where are you where do you really want to give your time, effort, and energy? And for me, as a Catholic educator, where's God calling me to do what I like to do most? And really, when I got into this, the high school setting was just special for me. With the kids, I was a coach. I mean, I just was all in when I was at Seminole, and so I didn't want to leave the Catholic school. That's how so. Really, I didn't apply. I didn't ever apply to be here. Mr. Fortier came to me at the end of, really midway through my 4th year, and said, hey, I know you had a high school experience and kind of see you might be a good fit for you. Are you willing to go to work in one of our Catholic high schools? I said, I'd love the opportunity, and I'm thinking, where am I going to be sent? I live locally, and there was, at the time, no openings here, and I'm like, well, I guess we'll see where that doors open, and then... he kind of approached and said, we're thinking Bishop Moore. And so I said, yeah, that'd be great. And
gosh,
I've not regretted it one day.
That's awesome, man.
I think, first of all, congratulations. It's a big deal. We watch all these kids now, football players are getting offers, and it's such an exciting time. Heard a great quote the other day. I'm a quote guy. I can never remember, but excitement comes from the achievement, but fulfillment comes from the journey that got you there. So it sounds like it's been a very fulfilling journey for you up to this point. And now you're taking over for Dr. Wickstrom, who we all know is a pretty incredible lady.
Incredible.
And is going to lead us into the future in the diocese. For me, I coached with so many great coaches. I was the 6th head coach in 9 years when I first became an interim head coach. And I learned so many things from so many of those different people. I'm just curious to know, as a leader who works so closely with Dr. Wickstrom, what are some of the takeaways you get from her?
I think working with Dr. Wickstrom afforded me a couple opportunities. Number one, working with someone who is a true academic is not all, you don't get that experience all the time. So Dr. Wickstrom's a learner. She would come in the office and be like, oh, I read a book last time. You're insinuating you read a whole book last time?
You didn't watch the NBA game?
Yeah, I'm like, well, I was watching play. Yeah, no, she was full book. In the time that, we might be watching film or, whatever we do with our time. So having an experience to work with someone that is a little bit, when I say higher level in the academia, someone who really takes learning personal and loves it. And I think a school like Bishop Moore, what's different about Bishop Moore in the academia is you're essentially educating students where all of them want to achieve excellently academically and go to college, all. So you can't work at a high school, really. There's only few that you can work at where everyone's goal is to go to college or the military, so that is a different setting for me. So when you're at a place like Bishop Moore, the level of excellence does kind of go. And so I think she is exactly what you would want to, have to show that excellence in the academia and learning as a lifelong journey. I think the other thing that she does incredibly well as a leader, it is for a large organization, when she's in a meeting or doing something, she processes so well. Like, listen to what's happening, process it, pull us in, chat about it, and then really make a decision with some real good information where you've been able to gather first. And so, slowing down, I know, even in athletics, you go. And I sort of take my athletic experience into my leadership at times. And so for, to work with an academic who can read and process and do some research and not come off the top of your head is, I think, it's an unbelievable experience. And so 2 years of every day of that, it starts rubbing off on you a little bit. And so that I will forever be grateful for.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's interesting.
I remember in sport. Go ahead, Matt. Were you
No,
I remember in sports and basketball. And I know you played basketball too, Nick, and you grinded it out, scrappy. But I remember a good coach saying, you play fast, like physically, but your mind, mentally, you got to take it slow. Like, and you're right, Dr. Webster does that incredibly. You do that too, Nick. But like, as things happen in a campus, like, you're probably faced with 3,000 decisions a day, like some big, some small. But like, taking each one, like applying what you already know and the information, the people you need to talk to, boom, make a decision. All right, and have peace about it. Next thing, like, but all this fat for a lot of us, we're like, how the heck do you balance that? But that gift, I'm sure the Holy Spirit and prayer, but like taking all these things as they come, saying, all right, God, like, what do you want for this one? All right, next one, boom, And I don't know, like playing fast, like fast on the surface, but internally, there's
and just little things like, because so close. It's like in the morning sometimes I'll knock on the door and she's like kind of in meditation. I'm like, oh, you're thinking right. So but those things, like, you don't think about it until you see it, about how important it is about being kind of in a higher level of leadership. Like, how do you quiet your mind to think? Because when you go, you might miss something. And so I think doing that is really important, and it was a huge takeaway for me. So.
That's the Latin expression. Make haste slowly. Festina lente.
Matt with the quotes today.
Matt,
I learned that. I actually didn't learn it. I took Latin 1 year at Mount Dora High School.
I didn't know that.
Well, that was terrible. I literally, I thought it would help my SAT score. It did not. I paid zero attention in Latin. But that's a quote that I say to the football players all the time, because we got to go fast, but we can't go fast to the detriment of making a mistake. So we got to be able to execute. So festina lente, I think, if you don't research that, but I think that's correct. Make haste slowly.
But it's about intentionality too, like vision. And Nick already, and Erica, Dr. Wickstrom has this too, of like knowing, okay, all these decisions are for a purpose, for an intentionality behind everything. I don't know. So it's easy in sports, but I wanted to ask you, Nick, about being an athlete, and like, you love sports. What have you learned from sports as an athlete, coach, and how can you apply that as principle now?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I learned playing sports was that challenges are inevitable. And so, as I was fortunate to kind of, in high school, I was an athlete, and then going back to coach at the varsity level athletes, like, you really get some perspective of how to go through challenges as a young person, because I was there, but then when you do it as a coach, you're kind of helping mentor them through the challenges. Because I think what, unfortunately, in life we can be trained as humans to do is sort of back away or retreat, or it's kind of a part of a Bible verse that I like as well. But when you are facing those challenges, like, how do you develop some grit to get through it, and also maybe control some emotion in that? Because I think as a leader, people do respond to your emotion. And so if a challenge presents itself and you can, with some poise and some prayer and some real peace, like, take on the challenge, and like the result still happens without a sense of like strong emotion or yelling, like lashing out. You really want to have some sense of like poise. And in the Catholic school system, I think what I've developed is like this pastoral response, even in an emergency. Like, how do we just keep everyone calm together to know that in community, that we can just make it through that? And so with your teammates, all those challenges you go through as an athlete, that's what you're doing. It's a simulation of all those things. With a really tight group of people. And so as a Catholic school, we're a Catholic community. You already have a built-in support system there. And so it's, leading that with some poise and some, some pastoral.
Amen. I love what you said too. Just like when people look to you, like, Matt, you do this phenomenally. if a player misses a pass, you're not like throwing the clipboard and yelling at the kid. You know, like, man, because the kids are feeding off, and colleagues are feeding off. Your coaches are going to feed off you. You know, even just the way you look at them, talk to, you know, like it's powerful. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, body
well,
language.
That makes me think of, I mean, just in the coaching profession or whatever it is, right? Just being able to, when you're walking with Christ and that's a part of who you are, it's really easy. And this is something I've learned and more recently than I'd like to admit, but it's easier to call on him in those times of like, okay, I'm getting ready to have this conversation with this parent. I don't feel good about it. It needs to go well. I need to say the right things at the right time. Please give me the words to do that. And I think being the principal of a great school like this and having that ability to call on him all the time, whenever you need to, has got to be a comforting notion, really.
Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's because a lot of the perspective, you know, you can have with it is, you know, even if some people are upset or things are, it could be our opportunity to minister to them at that moment, because you don't know what they're going through to, you know, have some frustration. It may not even be about coach at that moment, right? Or about the school or about, so how do you like humble yourself to like just be present for them? And that I think goes a long way with people. You don't have to agree on everything all the time, whether with your players, your assistant coaches, whatever, but to actually have a place where you're actually receiving them, hearing them, and letting them know that there's a true intention of me caring about what you're saying, and moving from there, I think goes a long way. Even if it's coming at us, we want to be pastoral to whoever that is at that moment.
Yeah. And Nick, already, I mean, you've only 2 years you've been here, right?
Yeah, it's my second year.
And man, like, Nick, you have a gift for relationship. Like, I think one of the lines that was put out in the email saying that, hey, Nick Pavgouzas, our new principal, right, was to know Nick is to love him. And like, oh my gosh, like beloved on our campus, right? But just like the way, Nick, you've already, like the way you talk to every teacher, every coach, doesn't matter who they are, like it feels like they're the most important person in the room. Like I've just seen that, you know, I've experienced that, but also seen the way you interact with students and teachers. And I want to ask, like, where that comes from, like at home, was it home, or like, cause that's not something everybody has, you know, like it's an incredible gift. So maybe just God's given it to you, you know, for this purpose.
I think everyone's upbringing, I think, shapes them a little bit.
Yeah.
And so when you come from like an immigrant family, like I lived with my, you know, particularly at times in my life, lived with my grandparents who came from Europe, who may not have spoke English well, or, you know, my Italian, you know, we were a blue collar family. Like my grandfather owned a big business, but had no high school diploma. So like when you really have to, like, you see the work that goes into success. And my grandfather, who again didn't go to high school, who owned a business and was successful, but it was a very blue collar way of doing it. And so I think, you know, he always showed his employees, even though they worked for him, they were all equals. We were a Catholic family. You know, so we went to church together, and I think you naturally teach your kids or your grandkids like how you want to treat others around you, regardless. We would go to a restaurant, and you know, whether they were doing good or not, we would have never allowed us to, like, you know, it's you're going to respect these people because they're working hard just like you and I. And so when I think you see that that real like struggle of, you know, I want my grandkids to go to college, I'm going to save up so maybe you guys can go. Well, the five of us all have, you know, bachelor's degrees. My oldest cousin has a doctorate with no college prior to that in our family. And so I think when you see that, experience that, you do have an appreciation for all hard work. Like all hard work is something that's valued. And there's really not a hierarchy. Like as I've been promoted, I don't even call it promoted. Like as I've been serving in another, you're just the front line of support for just more people. So like I always say, it's like, it's not meant to be this like, you know, it's really, you just become the front line of support, front line minister to just a larger group of people. So you have to prepare yourself spiritually for that, mentally for that. And so that's just how I've approached I don't even carry my business cards, and I probably should, right? Like, okay, I have a business card, you know, but like it's not where my head goes. You know, again, you probably can grow in that area. It'd be nice to have some contact information every so often, but it's kind of like I'm just here to serve in a capacity that might be a little bit broader. But it's like, how do I make sure all these people feel like you're an integral part of this organization? Because who does that then affect? Number one, it's the students at the school. And it's a people industry. So people have to be taken care of in order for the kids to be taken care of.
And it's so important too that, I mean, authentic leadership. I mean, we talk about that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
For you to have, Erica modeled certain qualities for you for all these years, and all these other people and mentors that you've had in your career and your family modeled the way to interact with people, the way to lead people, the way to be a part of relationships with people. But I think in this new role, as coaches, we always talk about one of the main things when you take on a new job is not ever try to be anybody else. And it's clear to me that you know who you are, that you're very secure in your skin. And I think that that's really important. And it's a blessing to our community at Bishop Moore that we have another leader like that, who may be different than the previous leader and then different than Mr. Brogan before that, but all just incredible people that have this ability to be their authentic selves and to lead with Christ in their heart and the right messages for our young people. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. And we were talking, Nick, I think previously, man, on one of these podcasts, we talked about the Last Supper, like Jesus, like the Son of God, like the King, the ultimate King. And what does he do the night before he's arrested and before he's killed? He washes the disciples' feet. It's like, even just talking about, okay, I've been named principal. Like, I'm sure there's temptation for some to say, oh, like, okay, like more power, more whatever. Yeah, I know you're not like that, but to think like, oh no, it just means I'm called to dig even deeper into wiping people's feet. Like, so what a beautiful way to approach it. And I'm sure you see that too as a coach, man. But how am I called to serve even more now? Lay down my life even more. Now I'm given this more responsibility and more lives into my, my care.
Yeah. So one of the things that also, so everyone knows Father Trout at Celebration, but as kids, we complain about ridiculous stuff, and we knew him really well. So like what he would always tell us is, to whom much is given, much is expected. And like, as I've gotten older, I've realized like, wow, okay, like really had a bad day at Bishop Moore. What does that look like? Right? So it's like, so, for the perspective for us, we're really so blessed with so much here. And even in our diocese, like our schools are filled, like, wow, like we're doing the opposite of a lot of areas in our country where we're so plentiful. It's like, to whom much is given, much is expected. So don't ever lose sight of, we're giving so you can give as well. So
amen.
Yeah.
Man, Nick, how about your vision for Bishop Moore going forward? Like, Matt, you talked about different principles. Scott Brogan, Dr. Wickstrom, now you, and it's so cool to see how different each person had, like incredible gifts, and every one of them unique. It's almost like God selected certain people for certain times. But like, where do you see kind of carrying this torch? Where do you feel like God's leading us?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like talking about this at a school that's turning 70 that has got so much tradition of like excellence. Right, there's been so much. You come work in our diocese, it's like Bishop Moore. You're like, okay, so how do you like at a school like this, like really try to learn like who is Bishop Moore, so then you're really just a conduit in time to make sure the excellence is continuing. And so
you just don't want to mess it up.
Don't mess it up. There's a lot of alumni out there that care. Football, these football. There's a trend. So, but I do think that what you can do is look at, and any leader I think has the challenge of their moment. Like when Dr. Wickstrom came, literally COVID had shut. Like, so that is right away. Like you don't really have time to think about anything but that challenge of the moment. I'm sure you can roll back when Mr. Doyle first came, who, by the way, for everyone who doesn't know, he was principal at All Souls when I was a student there.
That's awesome.
So that was a bit of a connection. I still think he looks at me like this can't be true.
Yeah, right.
So
you're in first grade still.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Ms. Martin's class. So but I think at that, when Mr. Doyle came, I'm sure there was something going on where it was like, I have to put my time and energy into it. So,
yeah.
But I think for Bishop Moore, like as you go to 70 years and we have so much, like it's such a dynamic place. I've kind of already talked to the administrative team a little bit about it. Like, how do we stay true to, like, who are we? What were we founded on? What are those core values? What is our charism? So that the students who come here can gain from all, like we're in this amazing studio right now, like the alumni of the past probably, I wish I had a studio. So, but we have so much here, the Moore Center, the athletic facilities, we renovate all the time. So, but how do we let our kids to this, like this feeling of like, I know who I am leaving Bishop Moore, who is our charism, why are we serving, what are the things that make me unique outside of my 4.0 GPA? And I think at a Catholic school, like your spiritual growth, like you go to college and you have a sense of who you are and some confidence as like a young Christian, young Catholic, like that's going to really be a separator. Because think about, everyone's going high GPAs. I wouldn't get into UCF anymore, probably. They're like, are you kidding me? With your scores. So I think if we can really continue the tradition of excellence the athletic excellence is unbelievable. Like there's the gym can't fit any more banners.
Yeah.
So you have the academic excellence, you have your academic excellence, but then how do we really make sure spiritually that our students are fulfilled going into a world where we know there's a lot of challenges? There's so many pressures to do things outside of sort of what we teach as like some really good Catholic values. And so I think we need to be, JP talks about intentionality, because I've talked to the administrative team a little bit, like we need to be intentional about the things we may take for granted, you know? And so like our retreats, our faculty reach, all the things that like, let's not go through the motions in those things we've done for 70 years, or, you know, let's really hone in on those things.
Or the mass, you know.
The mass, just going to mass, like don't ever take for granted why we do that, what's important, we're special in that. So I think for my vision, it's my gosh, carry on this tradition, but then let's really make sure we hone in on what makes us special.
That's great, Nick. And I'm sure there's people listening, they don't know about your family, like your wife, son. I don't know, you want to share a little bit about that?
I am blessed. So I have I'm way kicking out of my coverage. My wife is
we all are.
Than me.
I think all three of us are.
So been married for 8 years now. Nico's 3.5. He's a junior, so Nicholas Jr. 3, about almost 4. And so soon he'll hopefully be third generation at All Souls, because we live on that end of town. But mom and dad live close, brother, all of our family lives close, my wife family lives close, so we're all local. So we're really blessed to have a lot of family around.
That's awesome.
We spend a lot of time together, do everything together. Had to make sure my parents didn't want to add an in-law suite. Like let's go down the road. Stay now. So, but it's great because it's a good supportive environment. My son's a really blessed kid because he has so many people loving on him. And my family has been an integral part of this journey. Like, there's been sacrifices, and my wife's a hero and ultra organized, and, holds it down while holding a full-time job. And so I think your family always is sort of your intimate support system that makes it all happen.
No doubt.
That's beautiful. Well, what a witness to our kids, too. I mean, Dr. Erica Wickstrom was a beautiful wife and just really cared for our kids, kind of like a mother to our children. It's great to see this dad kind of step into that role to say, man, like these are my kids, these are my spiritual children to guide and bless. And for the young men to see a man who's married and a father to look up to as a role model. So what a blessing. And football players too for you, Matt.
Yeah.
What a gift, man. Yeah. But I knew you had a Bible verse too. Do you have a Bible verse that you like?
I do. We kind of touched on it a few times. So like I have through my career, like I always, people ask, oh, your age, like, are you not scared? I think like as I've like gone on my journey, like Isaiah 41, so this idea of like fear when you're going through walking life, like I really started to like, at the first of my ministerial career, I was like, man, I'm kind of nervous to make it. Was scary kind of going into these jobs where like the classroom, you don't realize how comfortable the space is when you're there. Cause it's like you and the kids and you have the relationship.
Man. Yeah.
And as a coach and head football coach will never do it. Head volleyball coach, it's great. Everyone loves you, sing your praises. It's presence all the time. It's, wow, this is great. And then you have like this initial negative feedback. You're like, well, why would someone think negatively? Like I've been years and years of everyone telling me how great you are. And so like, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. So if we can remember that like everything we do is really because God wants us to be in that place, and you have a purpose in those moments, like what he's trying to tell you, it's almost like, so here's how I look at this as like an athlete. If you were playing football with a quarterback that never missed a pass, would you be worried to play the game?
No.
Or like a basketball player is like, oh, I'm going to pick a teammate who never misses. Ever.
Steph Curry.
Never misses, and be like, nah, I don't want to play on their team. It's like, he's essentially telling us like, you have the best teammate of all time. Just go do it. Be a little bit. We don't want to just like reckless abandon in life, but to have a sense of like knowing that like I've got the best teammate of all time and just attack those challenges, knowing, I think frees you up a little bit from that feeling of like nervousness all the time. And so I try to keep that with me, because it does. I mean, everyone can say you're not nervous from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but it kind
I was nervous interviewing you.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Matt's hands are shaking. Or a polo.
You wore a polo today. No, but it kind of goes back to earlier on. We were talking about like peace and just like having that interior peace as we make decisions. It kind of goes back to like, you know what? All I can do is make decisions with what I've got and trust it. Trust it in God's hand. Especially at Catholic school, it's what we're trying to model for our kids. Is like life's not going to be perfect. Like we talked about when we did our Easter session about like, man, the cross is real. Like there's going to be struggles. There's going to be moments where like, what am I doing? But it's that constant like, all right, Lord, you've called me to this, so I'm going to do my best. with you and just entrust it to you.
A good example of that. So when I first started working here, like Dr. Wilson was like, I really need you to like start pushing into the arts, and like I really need you to help build programs there. I'm like, I said, it's like. Like they kicked me out of like guitar class. Like but what I realized through that is like I kind of prayed on. It's like they just really needed unwavering support. Like they were the experts. Like between Jamie Barker, Stephen Corey, Kellyanne Pounds who came on. Adam this year, Montavon. They just needed me to like be some sort of a conduit to get it up. Find me a room. Find me a place. Like get me and so. If you go into it like kind of pray about it, it's like don't be nervous, like just be there for these people and good things happen. It's like I see what 2 years, like wow, like good things just happen. We have our strings on. Like we came to Hornet Expo and there was a student playing the violin.
That was
this
neat.
is incredible. We had a young lady at our strings on. She composed her own piece. She's a freshman at her school playing a piano.
I didn't even know
she
that.
composed her own piece. I'm looking at the program, like, does this say like original composition? I'm like, I was like, I couldn't even do like, could I get to class on time as a freshman? Like, compose a piece of music. So I think when you look at it, you can also be something to people that you didn't know you could be. Like even for you, Coach, like someone might pick up something the football coach said that might inspire them that never played football, or for you in campus, we can all be something to someone we don't know we can be.
And those are the moments when you experience the most growth is when you're able to say yes to something that's maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you put yourself out there anyway, and you say, I'm going to do this, and then you discover incredible things like some of our students, and people don't understand, and this is at all schools. I mean, young people are amazing, and they get such a knock right now because of the generation and some of the things that they're involved with, the cell phones and everything else. But these kids are incredibly bright, and they have so much potential for the future and so many positive things that they are able to do. And being able to do something like that, experience that, gives you the opportunity to get almost like a look into something that you otherwise never would have seen. So saying yes is important.
And God's used you in a way you never could have imagined. Like I always think of St. Mother Teresa. I know Dr. Wickstrom is such a big patron of Mother Teresa, big fan, but St. Mother Teresa used to always pray, like, God, I'm just a pencil in your hands, use me today. And each day she would pray that, and it's like, man, if we just approached every day, like obviously you have your schedule, my meetings, my this or that, my class period or whatever, but it's like how God's used you in the in-between time, or like I know Coach Hedrick, you talk to your guys about like dapping each other up, like when you see each other, boom, like because you're building and you trust a bond there in your in-between time, not just like the set scheduled times at practice or in a game, but like every moment is a chance to say yes to God in some way, and in the little ways and big ways,
Yeah, it's awesome.
Anyways, all right, Nick, anything else to share? We kind of wrap it up here, or?
No, appreciate it. I'm excited, for everyone out there. We're looking forward to get to know you better. This is a large community, so any opportunity I can will be there, and
guys come. Okay, guys. Well, thanks so much for coming, Nick. Thanks for jumping on, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
And guys, we'll see you soon. Okay, God bless.
Cool.
Thanks, Nick.
Guys. Thanks.
Nick, awesome, man. That was beautiful, Matt. Thanks a lot.